So, you're Joey, right?
Yes? What do you want from me?
Your strange story. The reason you're here.
It's happening again, isn't it? I want you to see this picture, Joey.
You see, you caught the attention of a lot of people here. It turns out that Jeff, your doctor, is my cousin, and your story is very similar to the one this man told before he died.
Something about a game. Sad Satan.
Exactly. I need you to tell us how you ended up here, Joey. Tell us the truth in detail. Take all the time you need.
You won't believe me. We'll give it a try. Okay. It all started 5 years ago. At the time, I had a successful YouTube channel that dealt with urban legends, creepypastas, and paranormal activity. At the time, horror games were very popular. Sonic.exe, Pokemon's Cursed Graveyard, and Mickey's Horror Games. The algorithm heavily favored those who wrote about those topics. At first, I was happy to just be another YouTuber talking about it, but as time went on, things started to change. People were asking me more and more to touch on deeper topics and more terrifying stories, so I started exploring the deep web. That's where I came across Sad Satan. Sad Satan is not only another one of those horror games, but it's a game taken from the deep web. At the time, the game could only be downloaded from there, and when you started playing it, you discovered that something is wrong. The game is full of images of real serial killers and their victims. Today, there are many censored versions, but I had not only obtained a copy of the original, but I had information on how to discover the real Sad Satan game. Needless to say, I couldn't miss this opportunity. I had to play it. Before I did, I was told to be open to everything I could see, to follow the rules and nothing would happen to me, to stay calm. I started to record the screen, and after making my introduction, I started to play it. At first, I lived the normal experience, advancing through the maze in the game by seeing some terrifying images and interacting with everything I could and reacting to them. But after a while, I decided to play the real game. I got my character to a point that I can't tell you about and started following the instructions of the viewer that the game sent me. 6 steps to the left, 1 step up, 6 steps to the right, 13 steps back, and pause. I must admit that I didn't expect this to work, but it did. Instead of the pause screen, the game froze, and, as if stuck coming from another game, a note appeared. Turn off the lights in your room, light the candle, turn off the kitchen lights, walk back. Surprised but excited, I decided to heed this. I couldn't record it since the camera was on the computer, but my room faced the kitchen, so everything would be recorded. Okay, here goes nothing. Very attentively, I started to walk towards the switch in my room. I turned it off, then I approached the kitchen. For the moment, I felt nothing. I knew that the fear I had was the work of my imagination, but I couldn't help but feel it. I took a deep breath and lit the candle. After that, with an impulse of courage, I turned off the kitchen light. The trip back to my room was terrifying. The darkness began to take effect on me. Since I had the candle burning in my hands, my eyes did not adapt to the gloom, so everything around me was pure darkness. If a rule had not been that I had to walk back, I would have run to the computer light as fast as possible. When I got to my computer again, the note had changed. The lines from before were all crossed out, except for the last 2. But I already turned off the lights in the... I recognized that noise. That was the kitchen switch. I turned around again and the kitchen lights were on. Was it a fluke? The kitchen lights never failed, let alone at a time like this. Something strange was going on. With the candle in my hand, I tried to stay calm and went back to the kitchen. I turned off the light, and with the candle in my hand, I started walking back to my room. On this trip, though, something had changed. I felt something walking with me, but I couldn't see it. I then felt a breath on my shoulder, and I had goosebumps. I started to get dizzy. Each step was harder than the next. I think I was having a panic attack. I was a few steps away from my chair, but I felt that I would never get there. Something would catch me before. Something would hurt me. I walked with more speed the last few steps, and almost with a jump, I sat down. After taking a deep breath, I read the letter again. It had changed again. Don't light the candle again. Don't scream or move, it can't see you. Run to the lights, uninstall the game. Don't light the candle again? Just for a second, I saw that. I saw something approach and blow out the candle. My first impulse was to scream, run, hide, and even throw the keyboard at it, but I knew my only chance of survival was to follow the rules. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. I could feel that being almost in my face, its putrid breath telling me that its mouth was open, that it was in front of me. It might not have seen me, but I definitely sensed it was there. My body remained frozen, but my heart felt like it wanted to leave my body as the being's breath bounced closer and closer to my cheek. Suddenly, I stopped feeling the breath and heard footsteps behind me heading towards the bed. Run for the lights. This was perhaps my only chance. Desperate and almost falling over, I jumped out of my chair and ran towards the lights. I could feel something coming rapidly in my direction, catching me in almost a split second, but in one leap. I reached the switch. When the lights came on, there was nothing behind me. I ran to the kitchen lights and turned them on. It was all over. Following the last rule, I uninstalled the game from my computer. I started laughing like a psychopath while crying. I had done it. Are you telling me that you have a recording of this? No, I don't have any recordings. When I checked my computer later, I discovered that I'd never started recording. Have you forgotten to do it? No. I started the recording and double-checked, but according to my computer, none of it actually happened. And how did you end up here? You see, it turns out that you can't open a door to another world and just close it. From that day on, I never felt alone again. That thing was with me that night, comes with me, and when it's dark, it always tries to take me away. Why do you think I came here on my own? Here, the lights are always on. Okay, I think we've heard enough. Nice story, kid. Hey! Pass it on to the news, tell your kids, and put it on the internet. No one should play Sad Satan. That game is cursed. Understand? Of course, kid. Ah! What happened? I don't know. The power went out. And the generators. This has never happened before. Open the door!
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
Julian, how many times will I have to tell you to finish your chores?
I screamed at my 10-year-old son, Julian, who, like always, ignored me and kept playing on his laptop. His eyes were locked into the action. Comments scrolled down the side of the screen in a chat box. I yelled again.
Julian, can you stop your game for a minute?
What is it, Mom?
He went on playing without looking at me. Being a single mom, I could hardly get tough on Julian. Since the day he came into my life, an epitome of affection and care occupied my heart. I can't get angry with him because he is my life, so I try to discipline him with telling him scary stories. He grew up listening to my stories about children who encountered witches, ghosts, werewolves, and trolls. Like many generations of parents, I used scary stories to reinforce morals and teach lessons about safety. Single moms like me should use all the parenting tools they can.
Do you know this story about a boy who was obsessed with online gaming?
Mom, is this another one of your scary stories?
I laughed and said,
Why? You don't like them anymore?
He shrugged his shoulders carelessly and said,
Well, they don't scare me anymore. They just seem silly now.
I see. Well, I won't tell you this one then, because it will scare you to sleep.
Julian looked at me with a confused face. Maybe he was thinking about whether he should listen to it or not, but then he said confidently,
Tell me.
I asked with a frown.
Are you sure?
He closed the laptop, gave his full attention to my face, and said,
Mom, I can handle it.
Fine then. Let's begin.
Once there was a boy named Paxton. He loved playing video games online. he would spend hours and hours of his days in his room with his computer. One day, he was playing with some random strangers online when one of them texted him in the game chat box. He introduced himself as a high schooler named Kyle. Paxton began talking to him. After a few minutes of small talk, Kyle made a weird request to Paxton. He said he will give Paxton some extra life to go ahead in the game if Paxton shares his address with him. It was a survival game, and Paxton was an inch away from making a new record. So, he quickly agreed. He gave Kyle his full address and got the level ups promised by him. Julian's eyes were all wide now. I could see the tension slowly building up on his face.
Do you think Paxton did the right thing?
I asked to ignite the terror just a little bit.
What? No, of course not. He should have never shared personal information online.
Good that you understand this, but unfortunately, Paxton didn't.
He played for more hours, but Kyle didn't text him anymore. Thinking he was offline, Paxton went to bed after a while. He woke up in the middle of the night, hearing a loud dragging sound from his parents' room. He got out of his bed and walked to their room. He found the room door closed, so he knocked.
Mom? Dad? Is everything all right?
He asked. Soon, he heard his mom's voice from the other side of the door.
Yes, dear. Your dad and I are shifting some furniture. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Paxton went back to bed. In the next few minutes, he heard squishy sounds followed by loud thuds hitting the floor. All of them were coming from his parents' bedroom. He got up once again, closed his bedroom door, and went back to sleep. Just as he closed his eyes, he heard his mom knocking on his door.
Oh, Paxton. Are you asleep already?
He got furious now. He stormed out of his room, and as he opened the door, he noticed his parents' room right opposite of him. Their room was fully visible now. There were trails of blood on the floor, like someone dragged a bloody mess from one room to the other. Their bed was messed up with pillows lying on the floor. Paxton called out to his mother in fear. He felt something was wrong in the house, but his mom didn't answer this time. Suddenly, he heard a thudding sound of something dropping on the floor and turned around. He saw this woman dressed in a blue midi dress standing behind him. She had a bloody knife in her hand, and 2 severed heads lay on the floor right next to her. The heads belonged to Paxton's parents. The woman had murdered his parents and was conversing with Paxton, pretending to be his mom. Paxton went to scream, but the woman lunged at him and stabbed him as well. Once she was done killing the entire family, she started robbing the house. She brought bags with her, which she was filling with everything expensive she could find around. She was almost done when the lightning struck outside and a crying whimper of a newborn hit her ears. She stopped and looked to her left. All this time, the woman had no idea that there was another living soul in this house. She once again grabbed her knife and made her way into the room. Upon entering, she found this newborn lying inside a crib. The baby looked at her and their eyes met. For the first time in her life, the woman felt waves of affection in her heart. She dropped the knife and picked up the baby. As soon as she took the baby into her arms, he stopped crying and let out a comforting smile. She wiped her bloody hands on the blanket so she could caress the baby's cheek.
Hello, little man.
She whispered in an unknown joy. The deadly rage of brutality in her got replaced by love and care. She walked out of the room, took the baby home, and him as her own. As I finished my story, I could see Julian's face already puffed up in terror. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and said,
That's just a story, right? No way that's true.
Maybe. I can tell you what she named that baby.
What?
Julian.
I watched my son begin to shake in horror. His hands trembled, eyes stopped blinking. His heartbeat got faster, and in a stammering voice, he said,
But, Mom, my name is Julian.
I gave him an affectionate smile, caressed his cheeks, and whispered,
I know, son. I'm the one who named you.
Julian ran into his room in sobs. He will be all right in the morning once I tell him it was a made-up story. But today, a heavy weight got off my chest. At least I can die in peace now. Be it through a story, at least I tried my best to give Julian an idea of what happened to his real family. I remember eagerly opening the box as soon as it arrived, grabbing my headset and slipping it on. I had been waiting for this game for months, and I was finally going to get to play it. The marketing campaign for this game had been incredible. It was an immersive virtual reality game that promised to be the most realistic and lifelike experience yet. From what I had seen in the trailers, it looked amazing. According to some of my favorite online streamers, this game was realistic. So realistic, in fact, that they had started calling it the dating sim from heaven. You could date any character you wanted, and the game was designed to make you feel like you were right there with them. You can be sure that any man would want this, especially the lonely ones such as me. I couldn't wait to try it out.
Dinner's ready. Come and eat.
Don't bother me, Mom. I'm going to be busy.
I snapped as I put on the headset. She had been trying to talk to me ever since I got home from my college classes, but I was too excited to care. I entered the game and was instantly transported into a beautiful virtual world. The first thing I did was go on a date with one of the characters, a gorgeous brunette named Emily. We had a great time, and I could tell that she really liked me. At first, I just went on dates with Emily. I wanted a relationship with her. All I knew was that she was the first person, real or not, who had appreciated me, and I loved her. Eventually, though, I became more immersed in the game. I saw other beautiful girls, and I realized that I could have anyone I wanted. I wanted them all. All the girls in real life ignored me, or laughed in my face. But here, in this game, I was the king. Everyone wanted to be with me. I spent hours upon hours in that game, living in a world where I was the man that everyone wanted. It was an endless open-world game and was boundless. I could go on hundreds of dates, explore the most beautiful places, and do whatever I wanted. But then, one day, I found something as I was on one of my dates. I was dating a girl named Mia, and we were in a park. As we were walking, I saw something shining in the bushes.
Wow, look at that.
What is it?
I don't know. It looks like an Easter egg or something. I'm gonna open it.
I said, as I went over to pick it up. It was a beautiful golden egg. Grabbing the egg, I unscrewed the top and looked inside. And that's when everything went wrong. As soon as I opened the egg, the world around me turned dark. The sky turned red and the sun disappeared. I shivered and turned towards Mia.
Mia, what is all this?
She didn't respond. Her face was shifting, twisting into something dark and demonic. Her eyes turned blood red and her mouth opened wide, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. Trickles of white liquid flowed from her mouth, and she let out a blood-curdling scream. I turned to run, but it was too late. Everywhere I looked, everyone was changing. The world around me was filled with monsters, and I was all alone.
This isn't funny anymore.
I screamed as I reached for the menu, opening it and navigating to the option that said Quit Game. I clicked it. Nothing happened.
Please work.
I muttered, trying again and again. But no matter what I did, I couldn't escape. The game had me trapped, and suddenly I heard a familiar voice boom across the landscape. The starting tutorial had a narrator who introduced all the players to the game. I heard this voice now, but it was different, lower, and more ominous.
Congratulations, player. You have found the Easter egg. You have found the path to true immersion. Now, you will never be able to leave. What the heck? I want to leave. I want my mom. I want to go home.
I was panicking now, and the voice just laughed.
Your body is trapped in a coma. You're stuck here in this game forever. Enjoy your new life. Let me out, please!
Suddenly, I heard a low growling behind me. Spinning around, I saw Mia, her face twisted into a demonic snarl. Words cannot describe the fear that took a hold of me. Her eyes were blood red, with small black pupils in each eye, which looked at me with a type of hatred I've never felt before, not even from girls in real life. Her sharp, jagged teeth were spread throughout her wide, open grin as she lunged forward, beginning to move slowly, yet surely, in my direction. The white liquid continued to flow from her mouth and down her chin. What that liquid was, I still didn't know, but it seems to be the fuel that these creatures run off of. She was walking toward me, a hunger in her eyes. Screaming, I ran. I ran through the open world landscape, which I once thought was so beautiful. Now, it was a nightmarish hellscape, and I was being hunted by creatures that wanted to kill me. There was nowhere to hide, and Mia was getting closer and closer. I could hear her footsteps behind me and her low growls as she anticipated catching me. Suddenly, I tripped and fell to the ground. Mia was on top of me in an instant, her teeth sinking into my flesh. I screamed in agony as she began to feast on my blood. A message flashed on my screen, "Game over, try again." And I spawned back into the game, trapped forever in a nightmare. I don't know how many times I've tried to escape. Thousands, millions. I don't know how many times I've respawned either. And each time, the pain is so very real. Now, the narrator takes to taunting me about every day or so.
Look outside. Look at yourself. They've tried taking the headset off your head, but they can't do that. You're stuck in here, in this game, forever. Just like me.
Images of my body, lying in a hospital ward with tubes and wires attached to me, appear on the screen. From the camera, I can see my mother sitting next to me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. The narrator cackles.
Your mommy's so worried about you. You're just a vegetable now, a mindless husk, trapped in this game. Yet somehow, you're more useful now than you were before.
I tried reaching for my mother the first few thousand times. When the narrator showed me the images, I felt hope. I've given up now. I sit here every day as the narrator taunts me, and the creatures feast on my virtual flesh. And every image the narrator sends me of my body looks a little bit more decayed. I think about my mother and how she must be feeling. I hope that she knows I'm still in here somewhere. I hope she knows that I'm sorry.